Everyone called him a genius. The plan, the chess moves, the earpiece, the calm voice that never cracked under pressure. The entire internet crowned him the greatest criminal mind in television history. But what if the man behind the plan, the man who preached no casualties, no victims, no blood, was responsible for every single death in Money Heist? Every single one. And what if he knew exactly what he was doing the entire time? Today we go inside the professor's mind, and we are not coming out until every layer has been pulled back. Money Heist has a villain problem, not because the villains are weak, but because the show convinced you the villain was someone else. Gandia was brutal, Berlin was cold, Arturio was pathetic, and the professor, Sergio Marquina, stood behind his laptop in a safe house, speaking softly into an earpiece, and watched you fall in love with him while people died inside buildings he designed. Here's the question nobody asks. If you build a machine and the machine kills people, are you responsible for the deaths? The professor would say no. He would give you a calm, intelligent, beautifully structured argument for why the answer is no. And that right there is exactly what makes him the most dangerous character in the entire show. Not the plan, not the intelligence, the justification. To understand the professor, you have to go back to the beginning, not the heist before the heist. Sergio Marquina grew up watching his father, also a criminal, plan a heist and die for it. Shot by police gone, Sergio was a child, and that moment watching his father bleed out for a plan that failed did not push Sergio away from crime. It pulled him deeper in. Because Sergio did not grieve his father like a son grieves a father. He studied him. He analyzed what went wrong. He decided that the reason his father died was not because the heist was wrong, but because the plan was imperfect. That is a deeply disturbing response to childhood trauma. A healthy child loses a parent and learns that crime destroys families. Sergio lost a parent and started taking notes. He spent the next 20 years building a better plan, studying economic psychology, law enforcement, human behavior. He ran simulations, he built contingencies, he prepared for every variable. And somewhere in those 20 years of preparation, Sergio Marquina stopped being a person and became a function. He was no longer a human being with desires and fears and relationships. He was a plan looking for execution. Everything after that, the recruits, the heists, the love story with Raquel, the resistance philosophy, was all downstream from that one childhood decision. The professor was not born. He was constructed piece by piece by a traumatized boy who decided that the answer to his father's death was a better blueprint. Now, let us talk about how the professor built his crew, because this is where his manipulation becomes impossible to ignore. He did not recruit professionals. He did not find experienced criminals with track records and negotiating skills. He recruited broken people. Takio, a trauma-driven young woman running from grief with nowhere to go. Rio, a teenage hacker barely old enough to understand what he was agreeing to. Denver, a young man with a criminal father and no future. Nairobi, a mother separated from her son with nothing left to lose. Moscow, an aging man desperate to give his son a better life. Helsinki and Oslo, men with violent pasts and no legitimate options. Look at that list. Every single person the professor recruited was at their lowest point when he found them. Every single one had a wound he could point the heist at. This was not coincidence. This was selection. The professor specifically chose people who were desperate enough to say yes and damaged enough to be loyal. Because desperate people do not negotiate, damaged people do not ask too many questions, and loyal people walk into buildings with guns and stay there for days while police surround them outside. He dressed the recruitment in philosophy, in resistance, in the beautiful idea that they were not criminals. They were warriors fighting a corrupt system that had already failed all of them. And they believed him because they needed to believe something that is not leadership, that is exploitation dressed in ideology. The professor looked at a group of broken human beings and saw not people who needed help, but pieces he could use. Nothing reveals the professor's true psychology more clearly than what he did to Raquel Murillo. Raquel was the lead inspector assigned to the Royal Mint hostage situation. She was the professor's greatest threat, the one person with the intelligence and authority to dismantle his plan from the outside. So the professor made her fall in love with him. He approached her under a false identity. He constructed a persona, charming, gentle, intellectually stimulating, specifically calibrated to what a woman like Raquel would respond to. He studied her first, her divorce, her daughter, her professional pressures, her emotional needs, and then he walked into her life like he had written the script for it, which he had. The show frames this as a love story, two brilliant people finding each other against impossible odds. The music swells, the chemistry is undeniable, and yes, there is genuine feeling there eventually. That part is real. But the origin is not romantic. The origin is a man deliberately engineering a woman's emotional attachment to neutralize her as a professional threat. Think about what that means. Raquel was doing her job. She was trying to free hostages. She was trying to end a dangerous situation safely. And the professor, rather than accepting that she might outmaneuver him, chose to go inside her personal life and dismantle her from within. He used her loneliness. He used her need for connection after a painful divorce. He used her daughter as an emotional anchor point. Every conversation they had was a performance designed to keep Raquel looking at Salva, his false identity, instead of looking clearly at the evidence in front of her. And when she eventually discovered the truth that the man she had fallen for was the criminal she had been hunting, it broke her completely, professionally, personally, everything. The professor called it love by that point. But love does not begin as a tactical decision. Love does not start with a dossier and a calculated approach. What the professor did to Raquel was not love finding its way through difficult circumstances. It was manipulation that developed feelings as a side effect. And the show gave it a sunset and a happy ending. Now, we come to the part the professor's fans never want to discuss. The body count. The professor's first rule, stated clearly, repeated constantly, built into the foundation of everything, was no casualties. Nobody dies. We are not killers. We are not terrorists. We are resistance. Let us look at what actually happened. Moscow died inside the Bank of Spain. A man who joined the heist because he wanted a better life for his son bled out on the floor while Denver held him. Moscow was there because the professor recruited him. Moscow was in that building because the professor designed a plan that required him to be there. Nairobi died. Shot through a window by a sniper after being used as a hostage negotiation prop by the police, a situation that only existed because the professor's second heist created it. Nairobi was recruited for the first heist. She came back for the second because the second heist, the Bank of Spain operation, was launched specifically to rescue Rio. And Rio only needed rescuing because Tokyo left him alone on that island. Follow the chain all the way back, and every death connects to a decision the professor made, a person he recruited, a plan he designed, a heist he launched. He sat in his safe house with his laptop and his earpiece and his contingency plans, and called himself the man who ensured nobody died. While people died, the professor's genius was not the plan. His genius was making everyone, the crew, the audience, even Raquel, focus on his intentions rather than his outcomes. He meant well, he tried hard. He built the best plan he could, but meaning well is not a shield against consequences. And a man who launches two of the most dangerous criminal operations in history and then expresses genuine shock when people get hurt is either deeply delusional or deeply dishonest. With the professor, it was probably both. Here is the deepest layer, the one that makes the professor not just morally complicated, but genuinely frightening. The professor believed he was the smartest person in every room, always without exception. And the tragedy is, he was usually right, which made it worse because intelligence without humility does not produce wisdom. It produces a God complex. A quiet, well-dressed, softly spoken God complex that sits behind a laptop and moves human beings around like chess pieces and genuinely believes it is doing them a favor. Every person the professor recruited, he decided their fate for them. He decided Rio was ready for a heist at barely 19 years old. He decided Tokyo's recklessness was a manageable variable. He decided Nairobi was strong enough. He decided Berlin was controllable. He was wrong about almost all of it, but the professor never absorbed those failures as evidence that he should have chosen differently. He absorbed them as variables he needed better contingencies for next time. People were not people to Sergio Marquina at the planning stage. They were resources, inputs, pieces of a machine he was building, and the machine did what machines do. It ran. It produced results, and it broke the people inside it. The professor cried at those breakages. He felt genuine guilt. He genuinely loved some of the people he lost. But guilt after the fact is not the same as accountability before it. And the professor never once in 5 seasons stood in front of his crew and said, "I designed something that cost you more than I had the right to ask." He grieved, he adapted, he built a better contingency, and then he launched the next plan. The professor was not the hero of Money Heist. He was the architect of everything that went wrong in it. The genius, the plan, the philosophy, the love story, All of it was a performance. Brilliant, compelling, completely convincing. But underneath it was a traumatized boy who watched his father die and decided the answer was a better blueprint. Who spent 20 years building a machine out of broken people? Who launched that machine twice and called the casualties acceptable losses while standing safely outside the building? The most dangerous person in Money Heist was never holding a gun. He was holding an earpiece, and he was always the last one standing. If this changed how you see him, or if you think the professor deserved every fan edit and every tribute post, drop it in the comments. Next video, we go inside Nairobi, the one character nobody has the courage to fully analyze. See you there.